everyone, welcome to this quick mini lesson. This time we're going to cover some anatomy of the female reproductive tract, specifically the uterus, the uterine or fallopian tubes, and the ovaries. I'm going to cover them out of order from your textbook because it just makes a little more sense in my head to cover them this way. So we're going to start with the uterus. The uterus is a thick-walled muscular organ that sits low in the pelvic cavity. Normally it's tilted forward or anteverted over the urinary bladder. The walls of the uterus have 3 layers. The innermost layer is the endometrium. This is the lining that sheds during menstruation. The myometrium is a thicker layer of smooth muscle, and the perimetrium is the outermost layer, which forms a continuous sheet with something called the broad ligament, and that helps hold the uterus in place within the abdominal cavity. The uterus is divided into 3 regions. The fundus is the broad curved upper portion, and the body is the middle portion, and the cervix is the most inferior portion that projects into the vagina. The uterus is kind of shaped like a triangle. The upper rounded edges connect to the uterine tubes. We also call those the fallopian tubes. And the lower end opens into the vagina through the cervical canal. The opening into the uterus is called the internal os on the inside. Then there's a cervical canal, and it opens into the vagina through the external os. Within the cervical canal, there's mucus glands that secrete mucus and help prevent the spread of infection from the vagina. At the upper portion of the fundus, the uterine tubes or fallopian tubes extend from the uterus into the abdominal cavity. At each end, the outer 1/3 of the tubes flare out into funnel-shaped infundibulum with finger-like folds called fimbriae, and at the end of each fimbriae are cilia. During ovulation, these fimbriae act like little fingers to sweep across the ovary and pull the egg into the fallopian or uterine tubes. Closer to the uterus, the proximal portion of the uterine tubes are called the isthmus. The ovaries and uterine tubes collectively are called the adnexa of the uterus. Adnexa just means accessory organs. And finally, the ovaries are the egg-producing glands, or the primary sex glands of the reproductive system. Each ovary is about 1 inch long and 1/2 inch in diameter, and located in the lateral wall of the pelvic cavity. They're held in place by ligaments that attach to the pelvic wall and the uterus. This slide shows you how the organs are situated low in the pelvis and how the broad ligament connects the structures to the pelvic bones. And you can see how low the organs sit and how well protected they are by the pelvic girdle. Let's look at some terminology here. This slide is asking you to differentiate between the different forms of the same word. In the first line you have menses, menstruation, menstruate, and menstrual. Menses and menstruation are both nouns that refer to monthly uterine bleeding. Menstruate is the verb and menstrual is the adjective. In the next line, you have ovary, ovarian, ovum, and ova. Ovary is the noun. It's the female sex organ or gonad. Ovarian is the adjective. Ovum is the singular. It's the sex cell that's produced. And ova is the plural. And finally, pregnancy and pregnant. This one is easy. You've heard these terms. Pregnancy is the noun, and pregnant is the adjective used to refer to someone who's going to have a baby. The next section of your book describes the process of ovulation and oogenesis. I posted a separate video describing this process, so look for that. And that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next mini lesson. Thanks for your attention.